5 reasons why men are not approaching you. Well, maybe you're doing something that you don't even realize. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Second Act TV. Welcoming back Joni Caldwell, Lerner, the motivational coach, relationship expert, dating coach, and the author of Stop, Look, Choose, Your Journey to Peace and Freedom. Joni, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. I'm excited about this.
I'm looking forward to this conversation today. I think it's so relevant for our audience, especially for our women. That is 5 reasons why men are not approaching you. We talk about we don't want online dating. We want to meet in person. There's no good men out there, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe you're doing something that you don't even realize is to really repel men to where they don't feel like they can approach. So the article here, as it reads, I love this. There are 5 things that may be turning you into a romantic mirage. Here's number 1, Joni.
Okay.
I love this too. The Cruella De Vil effect.
Oh
are you a Cruella De Vil to where nobody wants to approach you? What does that mean?
What does it mean? So a couple of things. Cruella De Vil was very black and white, right? She was very sharp colors, sharp angles. And also there was a very fashionista piece of her as well. And all of those things can be off-putting. But her energy also was spiky. So we don't read just how what we wear, how we are presenting, how those things can be off-putting. And I'll give you a quick example. I drove up in my little convertible Mercedes for my first date with John with my designer glasses on and my blonde hair. And he went, "Oh no." Oh. That's what happened inside of him, because he thought I was this plastic doll, basically. I was presenting. I thought I was being all polished and, cute and fabulous. But it was interesting to find out that was his reaction. So the Cruella De Vil effect, what they talk about is softening that. So we want to soften that. Wear pastels maybe, or, don't wear a pointy hat. I'm just kidding on that. But notice what you're presenting. Now, sometimes women don't realize that they're protecting themselves. They're shielding themselves with this. So the very thing they want, which is connection, they're pushing away.
Great point. Yeah. And we're not saying don't be yourself. I mean, if you're that highly polished woman, that's the way you are, then be that. I think that, like, to your point, your example is sometimes we really aren't that person. We really would prefer to be in jeans and a t-shirt, but we feel like we have to show up, all made up. And we've talked about this on other segments. And men, I'll throw it out to you, men really don't, for a large part, that's not what they want. That's not what they're attracted to.
No, I read something 2 decades ago, probably. They said basically women with a lot of makeup and polish and it freaks them out. They don't know what to do with that. They're like, how do I deal with that? And it's very weird now for the younger generation with all the fake everything's. I mean, everything's fake, from their eyelashes to their butts. I don't understand. But
I know.
But anyway. Yes, and what you said about the highly polished, you can be highly polished, absolutely, but you don't have to be that from an arrogant place, condescending place, a judgmental place.
Yeah, the energy.
Men will pick up on it. Men will feel it, absolutely, and that is incredibly off-putting. It's like a force field. Get away from me.
Right. Yeah. So think about that. Are you putting something out there that you're really not? Or maybe you're not realizing that you're putting out an energy that is literally just keeping people from approaching you. Number 2 here, this is interesting. This is right up your alley, I think, from what you tend to talk about, Joni, is that your nervous system, I like the way this is put, your nervous system is terrified to be seen because of, like past traumas, you're trying to be invisible and are not even realizing it.
So the nervous system is extraordinary. It has kept us alive.
Hmm.
the fight or flight and freeze and all the things. So there may be times, or a lot of times around men, that they are trying to become invisible
Hmm.
unconsciously,
Right.
subconsciously. And again, energetically, the man will pick up on it. I don't know what's off here, but there's something off here. So the woman is subconsciously still protecting herself, that sweet little girl, right? I have such a soft spot in my heart for women who have suffered. They needn't suffer now, so many years later, on these levels still. Let's
Yeah.
clear it.
Right. And this is just something you have to gain awareness about, is invisibility, is that safety to you? This is a deep
Mm-hmm.
one. This is a deep one. We can have a whole segment on it.
Yes. Yeah.
But
But important. Important.
yes, that would absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
you could be, repelling people because
Mm-hmm.
you're not an approachable person in,
Yeah.
in,
There's
in
an
that sense.
unconscious fear, right?
Mhm. Here, number three here, there's no opening for him to approach. You're not giving an opening for a man to approach you. I've seen this so many times as well. I mean, I remember when I worked in the bar business in college, and I was a cocktail waitress, and just the way that different lounges are set, or bar, the way that the tables and the chairs are placed, there's no way a man could actually get up, walk over to a table where people are seated or women are seated. It's so obvious. Everybody sees whether or not he's going to be rejected or not.
Yes.
That
Yes.
to me was the
Yes.
best example of just putting yourself somewhere where somebody can easily approach you.
Yeah. And you don't want to be with a gaggle of geese. You don't want to be with a bunch of women, because that could go very ugly very fast, for so many reasons. But yeah, maybe you're out with your wing girl, and the two of you are at a table that's approachable, as you say, accessible. Your body language is a big thing. So
Yeah.
I actually just watched a video, a YouTube video. It was on Matthew McConaughey. You see, I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. This is how he sits. He's so powerful in his charisma.
No.
It's ridiculous. But that was
Yeah.
really open.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing this? Can you see
Yeah.
my arms? I'm wearing all black, so I don't know if you can see or not.
Yeah. No,
So,
exactly. The
are
cross.
you
Yeah.
doing this? Are you
Mm-hmm.
crossing your legs? If you are crossing your legs, make sure they're crossed toward the person. This is neurolinguistic programming. If they're crossed away from the person, you're closing yourself off to them. So, what
Right.
is your body language saying, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going? That's important too. If you're somebody who loves to party and drink and all that stuff, well, then a bar is fine. But if you're not, what are you doing there?
Mm-hmm.
Go take up pickleball. Go look at the meetups in there's a tall club. Did you know that? For
No.
people over, yes, women over 6 feet and something like that. No, women over 5'10" and
Okay.
men over 6 feet. It's a tall club, and they meet up and they go around the country and they do
Mm-hmm.
this and they dance and they do all these things. I mean, you can find any kind of club. Where
Mm-hmm.
are you putting yourself such that
Mm-hmm.
you are accessible?
That's such a great point, and especially with all the meetups now, there are so many different ways to put yourself out there to where people can approach you, to where
Mm-hmm.
people know you're approachable because you're there. You're there
Yes.
to meet up. It's yeah, it's a really big one. I think to remember how
Yeah.
do you just put barriers up would you just there stop, you're saying stop and you not even realize it. Think about that. I'd love to hear again from our viewers, how have you experienced that? Any suggestions how you overcame that? Perhaps we always love sharing that kind of information. Here's a tough one, number 4 here: having a secret resentment towards men. That unfortunately is prevalent, and vice versa, especially at this time in life, with all the experience that we bring to the table from relationships. That resentment has built up, and there's people that just put it right out there, and maybe honestly don't even realize it.
Do you remember Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Okay. And they slime with green. That
Mm-hmm.
green slime, that's what that's like. When men or women do this, and
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about women, it is so abhor
Mhm.
abhorrible.
Mhm.
It is so horrible, and it is so off-putting.
Mhm.
And you will know it when they say something like all men this,
Right.
all women this. Women
Mhm.
just want a sugar daddy. Men
Mhm.
just want whatever.
Mhm.
Men, okay, so that's a really great clue that they've got that going on. But
Mhm.
again, that is a thread from their past that
Mhm.
has nothing to do with you, and you are not going to win on this one.
Right.
They're unless they do what they need to do to change their thinking, they're
Mhm.
never going to change that. So is that something you can live with? Is
Right.
that something that you want to put up with?
Yeah.
Because not all men are anything and not all women are anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And are you projecting that?
Yes.
And that's really something you have to think about, because that again, to your point, you need to work on that. You need
Mm-hmm.
to understand that you actually have a resentment, which is, flying around you. And yeah, people are picking up on it. And
Yes.
yeah.
And let's just nuance that a little bit. They don't need to do that. They don't
Hmm.
need to do work on themselves. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always gotten. And if that's okay with you folks, don't do any work. Seriously, you don't have to, don't need to. But if you want a different result, figure
Hmm.
out how to change your thinking. I mean, that's where the reality is created, right? So if I think a certain thing about everything, then that's how it shows up for me.
Yeah.
So
So
you can
really
tell
think
I'm a little
about that.
passionate about
Yeah,
that.
no, and yeah, I know this one struck me. Do you have a resentment towards men? Because I do know a lot of women that have, and I'm saying usually I tell you if I feel like I fall into that. I really don't think I do. I can build resentment towards a certain person, so I understand resentment, but to a whole group of people that will eventually affect how
Yeah,
I move forward or have the viability of finding someone. That's
right.
something you really need to clear up up here. Think about
Yes,
that.
and I
Think if that
say
could be
that
you.
from experience
Mm-hmm.
because my mother told me always from the time I can remember, men
Mm-hmm.
only want one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Men are this, men are that. She gave me all her beliefs, all her all men are beliefs. It wasn't until my 20s that I began to do the work on it and change
Mm-hmm.
my experience, choose my experience. I could have just run with her belief system. That would have been it was
Yeah.
innocent again. It was
Right.
installed without my permission. But when we know better, we do better.
Well, now we know better. Oh
Now we
boy.
know better, don't we?
Absolutely.
Do
Let's
better.
go here. Here's the last point, and that's a huge one, especially again, so relevant for today, in that you just seem preoccupied. You're preoccupied to where you're just sending out the signal that I don't want to be approached. And primarily what they mean here is that you're engrossed in your phone, that you might be in a place where it's so viable to meet someone like a cafe or a park or whatever, but somewhere out. But if you're on that phone constantly, forget about it.
I'm laughing because one of the first half a dozen dates, maybe the first second date, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
John walked into the restaurant that we had agreed on, and I was on my computer. Now, I hadn't worked for somebody else in a long time, so I was trying to do the right thing, and I was, but again, in his head, and I learned these things later, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Uh-oh." So that's,
Yeah.
so it could have been a red flag, but I
Mm-hmm.
never did it again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's move to the phone. Yes, sometimes we're shy. We're maybe not that extroverted. Maybe we're nervous. So we go to the phone. That's the false,
Right.
I'm safe in my phone. I'm in a different world.
I have something to do.
I have something to do. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But you're saying I have something to do. I have something to do that's more important than paying attention to anyone else around me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to notice you.
I,
So
you
that,
know,
mhm.
it's so funny. There's a restaurant that we go to here, and this point was so clear. You have to get if you're not there at happy hour at 4 o'clock, you're not going to get a seat by the bar. And there's a certain table we want. So my point is that Paul will drop you here. You go run in. I'll find a parking place. So I'm sitting there by myself. And immediately I don't, there's nothing even I want to see on the phone, but it's
Mhm.
almost like something you do. And I, maybe I didn't want to talk to anybody else. I'm not there to meet people. But then I just kind of forced myself. I realized that. So it's
Mhm.
almost like a little experience, put the phone away and just, how do you do that?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
just immediately there's a few people that look over and smile at you, and not
Mhm.
just men, but women too. You're so much more friendly
Yes.
when you don't have that thing in your hand and the
You're,
eyes on it.
yeah, you're open.
Yeah.
Right. So back in 1989, 1990, somewhere around there, my husband and I, at the time, we would go to Barney's Beanery for breakfast, which is in Los Angeles. And we were
Mm-hmm.
sitting, and it was the same couple, old couple, like my
Mm-hmm.
age now. And the two of
Mm-hmm.
them would sit there with their newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
This is the old cell phone. So
Right.
they're with their newspapers and they're not talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned to him and I said, let's commit to never doing that. And that was before cell phones ever came along.
Yep.
And so finding ways to connect
Mm-hmm.
and noticing the ways that we shield ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we can change those things. And if you're in a relationship now and you're sitting there watching TV together and one of you's on a computer and one of you's on the phone, you're not really
Mm-hmm.
together, folks.
Right.
So, figure out ways of actually connecting.
Yeah.
And one more thing, while I'm on a roll,
Yeah.
one more thing, find ways every single day to sit for 30 minutes to an hour where all you talk about are things that matter.
I like that. That's a great challenge. We're coming to the end here. Obviously, another topic we can talk about forever. Joni, what I like about these 5 points is that they offer us, and as she writes here too, a mirror to ourselves. Let use these to look at yourself and be really honest. Do I fit in here? Is this why I'm not approachable? Especially if you want to meet people in real life versus online. But I'll throw it over to you to close us out here.
All right. So, one last thing, and it's, me, have the intention
Mm-hmm.
when you go out, have the intention of being open. We don't want life happening to us. We want to happen to life. We want to make life happen. So, if we have an intention of being open and receiving an interesting person or connection, it is far more likely because you're going to not get on your phone, you're not going to close your body off, you're going to be open. So what's your intention, folks? What are you actually intending?
I love that. Joni, thank you. As always, I will link to all of your information. If you're looking for a dating coach, if you're not looking for a dating coach, but you heard a couple of things here that might help you in finding the love you're looking for, give Joni a call. We have a link in the show notes, just especially for our second act viewers to get to Joni directly. And then, of course, pick up Joni's book,
That's
Stop,
very
Look,
good.
Shoes. I did. See, I did it
Yeah, it
without,
was perfect.
again, it's like therapy without the therapist in front of you. And I mean, I just love the book. And of course, I'll link to your podcast as well. Wake
Thank
Up
you.
with Joni. And I can't wait for our next conversation on Second Act TV.